See you later.
See you.
I haven't seen them in years. But he's a junior. I was gonna say they're only a year apart. Where is he?
Good morning, everybody. Dr. I heard you have an announcement to make, so before we start round rounds, can you please? Thank you.
For the residents, there's a new initiative out of the House Staff Office that I wanted to make you aware of. There's another module for you to complete called the ELM modules. Right? Basically what this is malpractice, excess insurance coverage. So you can start doing these now. You will do these as an attending every year so that your malpractice premiums are lower and you get excess coverage. It usually takes about 4 hours. You can do it at the moment, it's online. It's actually very helpful and very informative. All the attendings do this every year, and once you go out into practice, you'll be doing it every year. I think it's a good idea. It educates you into things like informed consent, liability, communications, where people get sued for not making notes, for not communicating with their other providers. So as you see this come up, just don't blow it off. This is kind of important for your future development with regards to ongoing education, and it's going to be a requirement from the House staff so that you need to complete this so that you're covered. Because unfortunately, as you know, residents are liable in suits, and several of you have been served, so that it's important to educate yourselves going forward. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Whitney. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Grand Rounds at Westchester Medical Center. Today we have an absolutely superb speaker, as we had last month, and as we planned to have. I thought I'm missing something in my hands. Dr. Satish asked me not to talk about it. I don't know, I've never seen people more polite than in this place. They don't want their buyers to know, but he certainly is a legend in here. And when I say legend, I have nothing to do with age. Just has to do with his contribution to this institution. And frankly, if I read all he had done, his CV is about 20 pages with font 5, I think. So we have really an amazing tour of a field that has changed more than any other in surgery. I think most of us now even forgot how to do open-end arterectomy and some other diseases. So Dr. Satish will talk today about carotid artery disease, evolution, diagnosis, and treatment. I just want to tell you that for those who do not know India well, Karnataka is an amazing place that has given to the world more scientists and physicians and nurses and others around the world. I can tell you that half of my department of trauma in Doha was from your place. That is where you were born, and we all kind of become one big village, so to speak. So, Dr. Satish, please take it from here and educate us on carotid artery disease. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Latifi and everyone. I think Dr. Latifi made my work very hard by asking Dr. Laxman and Marini to speak at the grand round first. I think their speech was so elegant, it would be hard to match their elegance, and I'll try my best. So, as you know, Dr. Laxman talked about brain protection, right, doing art surgery and aortic dissection. And last week, Dr. Marini spoke so elegantly about the molecular level of managing the brain, traumatic brain injury. So now we'll go further, still talking about the brain, carotid artery disease, and stroke. So, like anything else, let's do it in a little orderly manner. We'll talk about introduction. What exactly is the scope of the problem? Why do we need to really know about the stroke or carotid artery disease? historical, I think as students of medicine, it's very important for you to know something about history to give you really perspective of what happened over the years and how did we evolve to the current stage. Pathophysiology, carotid disease detection, which is really the name of the game nowadays, because once a stroke occurs, we are too late. So then, as we are all surgeons, let's talk a little bit about the conduct of operation and management, then something latest, carotid stenting, and then finally, of course, conclusions. And stroke is the leading fifth leading cause of death among United States adults. It is the leading cause of disability, affects about 800,000 people, 300,000 become disabled, and this is a problem, it's a big, imagine any one of our loved ones, when they get a stroke, we will have to care for them. And the toll both on the family and the individual is extremely high. The estimated health cost is actually, we all have to be sensitive to the cost of medical care, 41 billion B, and extracranial carotid disease is the cause in 20% of these strokes. So that's what we will talk about. And you see, if you look at this was a 1994 slide, the beginning of Medicare, and at that time, this was the statistics, and it still holds true that ischemic stroke still is a big problem. And this is the cost, etc. 1994, total cost, 90-day cost per patient was rather, taking care of the people was 6 billion. Remember 20 years ago, everything has become 5 times now. You could buy a car for over 10,000, then now you don't get a car of less than 40,000 now. So clearly, Dr. Marini last week touched upon the brain a little bit. It comprises, it's only about 2% of the body weight, but gets 15% of the cardiac output, indicating that the brain is an extremely complex organ, metabolically highly active. So we'll talk about it later in the day. And it's important to remember that there are just 4 arteries of the brain, 2 carotids and 2 vertebral arteries. And there is interconnection. We didn't know this actually, believe it or not, that there is interconnection. And this is now, of course, everyone knows that there is interconnection between the carotid arteries and the vertebral system called circle of Willis. And before we talk a little bit about it, the brain has an amazing capacity to regulate its blood flow despite varying blood pressure. See? This is the mean arterial pressure. This is the cerebral blood flow, which is normally around 50 cc per 100 gram of tissue per minute. And between the arterial mean arterial pressure of 60 to 140, the brain blood flow remains constant. This is an amazing capacity the brain has. Why is it important to know? Because this capacity, what's called autoregulation, is lost when the patient gets a stroke or when we are going to operate and do something. So it's important to keep this in mind. We'll talk about it later. And this is, of course, the amazing interconnections of the anterior and posterior circulation of the brain. And the person who really described it for the very first time was Thomas Willis. Thomas Willis actually described the interconnection between carotid and vertebral. Otherwise, it's called circle of Willis. He lived only for 53 years, 1652 to 1675. But he is credited as the father. He actually published the book called Cerebral Anatomy, and in fact it was such a famous book. The preface to this book was by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Sheldon. He is considered the father of neuroanatomy now. Not only did he describe the circulation of the brain, say, very intricately, but he actually mapped the entire pathways of the brain that we know. How he did it before the era of computers and all is amazing. He is actually buried in Westminster Abbey, that's an honor, privilege reserved only for the family of the British monarchy, the top hierarchy of the Church of England, and some national heroes. So it shows that this man was really important. He had connections, and in those days, believe it or not, you could not promote a thought or even a scientific finding unless approved by the King of England and the Church of England. So this shows that you have to have connections, and this book, in fact, why did he do such a great work? It's amazing that he spent the entire lifetime dissecting the brain. But actually he was searching for the human soul, believe it or not. At that time there were 2 doctrines. Europe was the seat of knowledge at that time, believe it or not. Germany, Austria, Vienna, everyone used to go to Europe to learn. And there were 2 doctrines. The doctrine was, some people, scholars thought that the human soul resided in the heart, and some thought it resided in the brain. And he was thinking that it is the brain, and that's why he did all the dissection. The thought was that there is a vital soul, a rational soul, and the immortal soul. The first two being present in all living beings, whereas immortal soul was only in human beings. So the way things are going now, I think it's time to search for the human soul, all the bad things that are happening. He believed in the supreme power of monarchy, and he actually coined the term meritus for diabetes mellitus. It was also called Willis disease. So then let's go, then this was about 400 years ago, 1600. And then what happened, even though he described all these things, in fact, there was not much thing going on until we realized as recently, this is the 19th century, we are now coming almost 300 years later, that these are all the risk factors for stroke, and then carotid disease is now considered one of the risk factors for stroke, which was not known, believe it or not. Of course, the people knew, as I told you before in the last session, rheumatic heart disease was rampant all over the world. Rheumatic heart disease, one of the hazards of rheumatic heart disease was embolization, valve disease, embolization. So all problems, stroke and all, were considered to be due to the heart disease or inside the brain itself. It was not known that the carotid disease could be the cause. All strokes were thought to occur due to pathology in the brain, either hemorrhage, thrombosis, or embolism. In other words, intracranial pathology was thought to be the cause. It was not, as I say, this was not known that there is a critical stenosis of the carotid artery that can cause some problems in the brain. Until this young man, believe it or not, you should be fortunate that we are in really New York City where a lot of innovation happened, and particularly in this era, in this sphere, American contribution was very great. This is James Ramsay Hunt. He was, you see this, his title? Associate Professor of Nervous Diseases, College of Physician Surgeons, Columbia University, New York. Neurologists were called as people of nervous diseases. So at that time, he was a young neurologist, and believe it or not, I'm sure faculty and some and all can watch for this. When we were medical students and researchers, we had to do autopsies. We had to go actually to the pathology. And in fact, before we took the boards and the exam, we had to do 10 autopsies and show the board, the report to the board. So it was necessary. So he was a neurologist and he had to do a lot of brain autopsies. He was very surprised that when the people with stroke, the actual arteries inside the brain were fairly pristine. And he couldn't understand why did these people have stroke, and he started dissecting downwards and found in a large number of these patients carotid disease. That was the very first paper. This was 1914 in the Academy of Medicine in New York City on Fifth Avenue. It is still here. It is a very prestigious society. He said the role of carotid arteries in the causation of vascular lesions of the brain with remarks of certain special features of symptomatology. He was the first person to say that monocular blindness and contralateral hemiplegia, these are actually could be a manifestation of carotid artery disease, which was not known. In fact, James Ramsay Hunt is well known in the field of neurology. There are at least 3 to 4 syndromes named after his name, and he was a very interesting character. He actually was a graduate from UPenn, was on the faculty of Cornell and Columbia. He has several neurologic disorders bear his name. Married Alice St. John Nolan, who lived in Katrina, very close to us in Westchester. And his son, Ramsay Hunt Jr., is an intelligence officer in CAA even now, and daughter Alice Hunt Sokoloff. She actually lived here. She, in fact, used to volunteer in Northern Westchester Hospital in oncology. She just died recently, I think in 2013 or something like that. So that's how the first time the knowledge of that this could be, this is an important finding, that the extracranial problem could be the cause of intracranial problem was first diagnosed. Then of course, right down the hill, this is another famous man who became famous, Charles Miller Fisher. Miller Fisher, from 1913 to 2012, he just died only 3 years ago. He's a graduate from the University of Toronto. He was a resident in Royal Victoria Hospital in 1939. You see, 1914 was the initial paper by Ramsay Hunt, but nothing happened until 39 because what happened? The World War I came, World War II came. When there's all these world wars, in fact, scientific research went to a low ebb. He enrolled in Royal Navy, was on board Voltaire of British Navy, was sunk by Germans in 41. He was actually in water for 9 hours and was captured, spent 3 years at a POW in German camp. This guy is a brilliant man, the doctor. He actually became fluent. He actually learned German and was able to read all the German literature. And he became professor of neurology, Harvard and MGH, introduced the term TIA, transient ischemic attack. He actually, in fact, compared it to intermittent claudication of the brain. So TIA is like a foregrade of stroke. he was the first one to describe the cause of stroke in atrial fibrillation. Remember I told you there's a cardioarterial embolization, and this is an example that an arterioarterial embolization. Emboli can come from the heart, or emboli can come from an arterial. So he was the one to describe TIA, and he explained that most infarcts in the brain are caused by disease in the arteries outside the brain. He was actually a pathologist, neuropathologist, and he confirmed what James Ramsay Hunt had told us before, and he actually speculated. In fact, he wrote in his paper and he presented that one day surgeons might be able to remove the offending lesion to prevent stroke, and it is a reality today, right? So he's considered the individual most responsible for furthering information about stroke and stroke mechanisms in the 20th century. And this is an interesting thing. He was the one to say that carotid artery doesn't necessarily have to be narrowed significantly. It could be irregular, what we call as an ulcerating plaque. This is the very important concept. An irregular artery can cause similar damage to an extremely stenosis artery. Then of course came in Antonio Lucas Moniz, who is a Portuguese neurologist who developed cerebral angiography. This was a very important landmark innovation in 1927. He actually, if you remember, Lucas Moniz was founder of modern psychosurgery. He actually developed frontal leucotomy to people, who were not doing social behavior and all these things. In fact, got Nobel Prize. Unfortunately, it was no longer an operation for that. He was ambassador to Madrid and he was shot by his own patient. Then, of course, came the landmark reconstruction of Well, now, of course, we came to know all the knowledge. We have the knowledge that the carotid artery disease can cause stroke, but we didn't know what to do about it. Neither vascular surgery was developed, nor did we know that it is possible to clamp the carotid artery, approve the carotid artery without causing a stroke. This was not known until the credit goes to this is a paper presented by reconstructive internal carotid artery in a patient with intermittent attacks of hemiplegia by Dr. E. Scott, Pickering and Robb. They get the credit for doing the first carotid artery surgery for prevention of stroke in the world. Actually, Dr. Pickering was the professor of medicine in St. Mary's Hospital, London. Dr. Charles Robb was a professor of surgery, an extremely brilliant speaker and a good surgeon. He actually was our guest here. He used to have the vascular. He came to the United States and became chairman of surgery at the University of Rochester. And he was our guest. We used to have a vascular annual meeting. And he was a brilliant speaker. And Dr. Pickering was a brilliant internal medicine. He was professor of cell medicine. He had a patient who had 13 TIAs in a matter of 24 hours. He went and told Dr. Robb, look here, you have to do something. She's going to die of a stroke anyway. Why don't you do something? They did an angiogram, found a very critical stenosis. And Dr. Robb agreed. Actually, technically, so they did the operation. As I told you, they did not know whether it is safe to clamp the carotid artery. They did not know all the physiology we know today. So they said, how do we protect the brain? They didn't know how to protect the brain. Someone suggested, why don't we cool the brain? So how do we cool the brain? So I said, well, why don't we keep the patient cold? How do we keep the patient cold? So it was London. The operating room was on the 5th floor of St. Mary's Hospital. They opened all the windows to the operating room and made the room very cold, and they operated on it. And one of the American surgeons, Sheldon, was actually in the operating room filming the whole thing. And so history was made. The patient actually had, in fact, this is not an endarterectomy, truly. This was actually resection. Dr. Robb resected the artery and did endopendent anastomosis, which is a little difficult feat even now for us. But he resected the artery, and in fact, the patient lived for the next 20 years without any neurologic event, and history was made. But believe it or not, actually, Dr. Michael DeBakey in Texas actually had done the actual endarterectomy a year before, but was so busy innovating heart and aortic surgery, he did not think of reporting it. And actually, the real endarterectomy, the term endarterectomy is really an American term. Jack Wiley, before it was called actual endarterectomy, was done for the first time in aorta by Sid dos Santos in Spain, and he called it disobliteration. So Jack Wiley, University of California, chief of vascular surgery, he called the term endarterectomy, and this is what you remove the plaque inside the artery. Ectomy is removal or resection. Arterectomy would be removal of an artery. Endarterectomy is removal of the inner layers of the artery, removal of the plaque. This is the type of plaque that we remove, keeping the artery still intact, which we thought it was thought that once you remove all the layers of the artery is going to disintegrate. It was actually shown that it is possible to keep the artery still intact and do this operation. So once this became, of course, common, like anything else in medicine, carotid endarterectomy became one of the most common operations performed in the United States, approaching 180,000 operations annually. But the problem was, like anything else in medicine, there was a vast difference in outcome. The stroke rate from the operation was 5 to 26%. Can you believe it? The whole idea of this operation is to prevent a stroke, and the stroke rate of the operation is 5 to 26%. This actually caused a lot of, people didn't realize, and like many things, we didn't police ourselves in medicine. It caused someone put it in a paper, it caused a tremendous public outrage, and believe it or not, this was actually came on evening anchor news. Tom Broke of NBC, Dan Rather of CBS, Peter Jennings of ABC News, and this public outcry on this and the wide media coverage forced the medical community to look in within. This is an example of how society sometimes would force us to make ourselves, police ourselves. This led to two important NIH-sponsored trials, National Institute of Health sponsored trials called NASET and ACAS. NASET stands for North American Symptomatic Carotid Endarterectomy Trial, and ACAS stands for Asymptomatic Carotid Atherosclerosis Study. I don't think we should go into the details of it, except to say that both these studies showed that in very critically, significantly stenosis patient, carotid artery stenosis patient, endarterectomy benefits patients than only medical treatment alone. So, in fact, the surgeons, now the vascular community or the surgeons in the country were charged with an enormous responsibility. They actually, what this study showed was those patients with the tightest stenosis and highest risk need the operation which is to be done with the lowest complications. So we were charged with enormous responsibility, and it actually, believe it or not, it happened to cardiac surgeons. Cardiac surgeons were charged with giving mortality to less than 2% in elective CVD. The New York State, mandated that only people who can do more than 250 operations per year would be allowed to do cardiac surgery. So now this is an example of how the society will force you to do something, and then we are. Now you know that we can do carotid endarterectomy with the risk between 0 to 1%, right? So from 5 to 26%. So it is possible for us to critically look at ourselves. And how did we do this? So I'm going to take you through the evolution. But believe it or not, actually there was, before all these studies, when I was a resident, John Savino knows, he was a year ahead of me. So there was a study called Joint Study of Extracranial Artery Disease by these 4 or 5 people. Roy Claus, who was my chief and John Savino's chief, whom I consider a mentor, and New York Medical College, our own institution, Tony Imperator from NYU, Jesse Thompson from Texas, and Wesley Moore, chief of vascular surgery at UCLA. These people had done this study. This was a remarkable study looking back. It's not randomized, nothing. But they proved that patients with hemodynamically significant stenosis are best benefited by carotid endarterectomy. And that's what actually we were following. But this was the first study before all these NIH-sponsored trials happened. But what is more important is that they showed that no role for carotid endarterectomy in acute stroke. People didn't know that. People would do carotid endarterectomy for all neurologic disorders, and it's so crazy. No wonder we got such high risk. So many patients died. But this study showed that there is no role for CEA in stroke patients. When stroke has occurred, doesn't matter how the stenosis is, you're not going to have this patient. You might actually make them worse. So then came, of course, well, if there's no role for carotid artery surgery in acute stroke patients, so what is the role of it? Obviously, you need to prevent it. That means you need to detect. Carotid artery disease detection became the cornerstone of prevention of stroke. So how do we detect? In fact, when we were resident, we had all these tests, and now we are lucky. We don't do any more ophthalmodynamometry, we don't do perioperative doctor, ocular plethysmography. These are all the tests that we grew through, but now we have only one test, carotid duplex. It's an amazing, ultrasound. I always say that ultrasound is a modern medicine, modern stethoscope. Everyone uses it. So carotid duplex. What is a duplex scan? It's also called carotid Doppler, sonogram, carotid ultrasound, etc. Why is it called duplex? Because it does two things. It gives you a real-time imaging of the artery plus spectral analysis, which is the analysis of blood flow. That's essentially the word. It's called duplex. You're getting an image and you're getting analysis of blood flow, and you put both these together, and it's almost 98% sensitive and accurate. So that is why this is such a fantastic test. It's non-invasive. And believe it or not, we were some of the first people that I was young and handsome. So this was, believe it or not, Roy Carl, our mentor, had an amazing vision. He actually thought that one day we could use ultrasound. Everybody thought it was crazy. He thought that one day we could use an ultrasound to image the artery. Imagine at that time angiography was the only way. And this is one of the prototype machines. And I can tell you a story some other time.
Apple?
No.
Maybe that's what
Maybe
happened.
one day he called me and said, this is an amazing story. He called me and said, do you have $10,000? And I said, what's going on? But he was a teacher, my mentor, and so I said, I called my wife, we have any money in the bank. So I said, bring a check, and we blew it up. We went to, he came, picked me up in Westchester. We went to Mortburn, and we met a man who looked like he had not bathed in 1 month, and he was looking like Einstein in a garage tinkering with some machines, and we paid him $10,000 and bought this called AngioScan, because you see this is the first prototype of a duplex scan that we had called P2 ultrasonic arteriograph, because at that time we didn't know it was not called duplex scan, it was called P2 ultrasonic arteriograph, and this was a machine, and we actually, it would only give the image, and somehow I don't know how Dr. Claus had some friends in physics, physicians and rather physicists, and he somehow thought that we could actually get the velocity and somehow combine these two, and so this is a machine that we used to do. This is the very first prototype. Now, of course, all the radiologists think that it is birthright to have duplex scans. We actually were one of the first ones. And this is the kind of image that we used to get. Of course, we could not make out very nicely. It used to take an hour or so. We used to go to Dr. Claus' office every Saturday and work there, and all these rich old ladies from Park Avenue look at the medicine. So now of course we do have standardized. Of course, once we did this, we didn't know how to interpret these things, and now we have a society called ICAVA, the Inter-Societal Commission on Accreditation of Vascular Laboratories, and this is the reporting standards. Carotid artery now all over the world now we are reporting this way: 0 to 15%, 60 to 49, 50 to 79, 80 to 99. We only worry about 80 to 99% category of stenosis that are that are risk factors for stroke. And of course, on carotid, the duplex only tells you the neck. So we need another imaging study for MRA, CT angiogram, and angiography are imaging studies, because we need to look at the brain too. And this is an example of an MRA. See the resolution, it's amazing that we don't need anything. It's non-invasive, right? So it gives the resolution so nicely. One can see the very critical stenosis. So now the current standard is we no longer do angiography for diagnosis. So the standard of is 2 imaging studies: duplex scan, and then duplex scan shows that there is a critical stenosis and you need to treat. Then you go for either CT angiogram or MR angiogram. And the conventional angiogram we used to do, we no longer of course do it unless in special circumstances or unless therapeutic will come to that later. You see the critical stenosis angiogram. This is the kind of stenosis that we treat. And what happens? Just like coronary artery disease, why does one get an MI suddenly one night? Same thing. Why does one get a stroke? The stroke didn't happen suddenly one night. It's actually the plaque that is growing gradually over the years, and suddenly there's a hemorrhage between the plaque or something like that, and it occludes, and then suddenly the patient gets stroke. Or this is hemodynamically significant stenosis. It means the gradual reduction of blood flow to the brain can cause a stroke. More important is embolizing. The plaque can rupture, break loose, cholesterol and other particles can go up the brain, and that is in fact more common cause of neurologic disorders and stroke than the hemodynamic system. But it can happen. Here, I don't know whether you can see, here's a patient with a very tight stenosis. This patient, of course, did not like to have any surgery done since he was asymptomatic, and comes back with a massive stroke. This was about 6 months later. We do this. At that time, of course, we did not have duplex scan. We did an angiogram, and we see the intercardiac stroke occluded. Once the intercardiac is occluded, it's an inoperable situation. Why? Because the thrombus, even though the disease is here, the column of thrombus extends all the way into the brain to the next branch, which is the ophthalmic artery. So that's why that means you need to open the skull, etc. Otherwise, it's the only artery vascular disease surgery where the artery is totally occluded, it becomes inoperable. Right? Every other place, the artery is blocked, you do the bypass. So you need to do before it occludes completely. So the indications, so we now, after all these studies and our experience, these are indications of anyone who has a hemodynamically significant stenosis, which is usually 75% or greater, with symptoms of TIA or amyloidosis celiac, stroke with recovery. Stroke is not an indication, stroke is a contraindication, as I told you. Once a patient has a stroke, there's no point in doing surgery. Stroke is recovery, non-invasive symptoms, and finally asymptomatic high-grade carotid. So then, of course, now we came to the point of the surgery itself. Now it's clear, as I say, surgeons are charged with doing this operation with very low risk. How do we do this? So patient selection, operative conduct, and post-op management all became very important. So So how do we do? How do we make this a safe operation? So now these are the things that we now, as you know, those of you who struggle, preoperative imaging, assessment of collateral potential, operating on a vague patient is one of the regional anesthesia getting popular, computerized EEG monitoring, measurement of cerebral blood flow. These are all the methods that we have now to make our operations safer and safer than ever. So, for example, look at this. What is this? This is a classic example of preoperative assessment of collateral potential. This is actually, believe it or not, it looks so simple now, but we didn't know this. This is a patient with a left heart injection. What do you see? I don't know whether you can make out. This is a cross-fitting. You can see the blood flowing to the other side of the brain. What does it mean? Obviously, total approval on the opposite carotid. So this patient, imagine, you did not, in fact, a lot of insurance companies don't approve if you ask for the MRI of the brain, only the MRI of the neck they will allow. So that's stupid, because if you don't know this, the opposite carotid is occluded, and this artery supplies the entire brain, and when you clamp this artery, you will have a dead brain. So this is an example of assessment of collateral potential before you do the operation to keep the operation safe. What is this? This is the angiogram of third artery. Look at both anticerebral arteries are coming through. It is a very frequent anomaly. Both anticerebral arteries are coming from one side. So what does it mean? Look at this. So the left carotid artery ends only in the middle cerebral artery, no connection to the opposite carotid. This is what is called a classic example of incomplete circle of Willis. So the opposite carotid may be perfectly normal by duplex scan, but when you clamp this artery, there is no connection. This is an incomplete circle of Willis. So this man can have a dead, MCA stroke, very good. So these are the kinds of knowledge that we developed over the years without, this is a classic example of assessment of preoperative assessment of angiographic potential for collateral circulation. If this is a patient, you would do a shunt if if you knew all these things. And then of course, stump pressure measurements, continuous EEG monitoring, all state interview, which is now standard. And most of us, of course, did not have continuous EEG. When we all grew up, we used to use stump pressure as we would clamp the external carotid, common carotid, put a needle, whatever pressure you measure is a reflection of the collateral circulation. If this was 50 millimeters or more, you would consider this as safe to go ahead and do that. And of course, the most important would be the cerebral blood flow. If you have some chance of, if you have a method of measuring cerebral blood flow, that would be the ideal. The normal brain blood flow, as I showed you, brain takes 15% of the cardiac output, even though it's only 2% of the body weight, indicating that it's such a highly metabolic organ. So normal blood flow to the brain is 1,750 to 1,000 milliliters per minute, or the other way to express this is 50 cc's per 100 gram of tissue per minute. When blood flow drops to 30 cc's per 100 gram of tissue or lower, you get ischemia of the brain, and below 20, actually at 18 cc's, you get frank stroke. So if you have some way of measuring cerebral blood flow, that would certainly be the most ideal. However, measurement of cerebral blood flow is very complex, and we don't do that, and instead we use continuous EEG monitoring, etc. And of course, when we were, I don't remember, John, when we were with Dr. Claus, we used to do, anytime the carotid artery was like a federal case, we had to put a catheter to the intraventricular vein and measure the cerebral venous oxygen saturation. We would get the pressure up to 180 because we want the high amount of blood flow to the brain. We would make the PCO2 45 to 50 because we wanted cerebral vasodilatation. And we would do all these, and we do the carotid artery and we would get some result. This is an example of how what we think we are doing right is not always right, because down the line, 3 blocks down the line, in 32nd Street, NYU, Dr. Imperato, who is the other giant in vascular surgery, their group was doing all carotid artery without any monitoring, without all this jazz, under regional anesthesia, and that equally good results or better results for us. So it made us think twice. Oh my God, all these things we are doing, is it really always right? Even though scientifically it looks so complex, it did not require all these things if you do them in renal. So as you know, most of us now do this under renal anesthesia. You can do under anesthesia, but you need to keep your physiology proper. So strategies to optimize outcome. We realize that, in order to protect the brain, we used to keep the blood pressure very high, and all these people, a significant number, got ended up with myocardial infarction because we kept the blood pressure so high during the operation. So clearly, that was not the right thing to do. So we need to protect the brain, but also protect the heart. We need to look at both. So that's how the modern came. And of course, like anything else, doesn't matter how much physiology you know, the technique of surgery is very important. So the whole idea of modern surgery is you have to be physiologic surgeons. You need to do well, but you need to do physiologically right also. So need dissection. A complete endarterectomy includes, look at the external arteries with the end point. You need to do a complete endarterectomy. So surgical technique is very important in these operations, unclamping, etc., which is very important. And of course, you have to be careful of the various nerves that are surrounding the carotid, pharyngeal, supralaryngeal, hypoglossal, vagus. All these are important. So just stroke is not the only endpoint that you are trying to avoid. You need to do this operation physiologically right and technically perfect. Which is always I keep saying, operation has to be done physiologically right and technically perfect. There is no simple surgery, only simple surgeons, right? So then where are we now? So, Ramsay Hunt in 1914 actually speculated that carotid disease may be the cause of stroke, and Miller Fisher, Michael DeBakey actually did the first endarterectomy, but he was so busy innovating cardiac surgery and aortic surgery, he didn't think of recording it. So Eastcott, Pickering, and Robb get the credit for doing the first endarterectomy, even though DeBakey actually had done it in 1953. So like anything else in medicine, we have to keep thinking and evolving. So what is new? What is new in research? So very quickly, what happened in the 70s, the concept of minimally invasive surgery came into fore, and so this is so-called non-compressive balloon angioplasty, and stenting came into view. And yes, Grunzig from Sweden was the first person to do balloon angioplasty. These are non-compressed balloons. What is a non-compressed balloon? That means doesn't matter how much pressure you inject, the balloon is not going to go bigger, unlike compressed balloons that you just blow a balloon, it gets bigger and bigger. These are non-compressed balloons that are made of special material that whatever diameter that you are imparting in the manufacturing process, that is going to remain like that, doesn't matter how much pressure you use. So these are non-compressed. So this is actually the harbinger of balloon angioplasty, and then of course the stenting. Nobody ever thought that you could put a piece of metal in an artery and not let it thrombose. And then of course we were proved wrong. Right now we can do stenting. And of course then came the famous trial became whether stenting is possible in third arteries. This is called CREST, start for carotid revascularization. The endarterectomy was a stent trial, one of the largest NIH-sponsored macro trials. Westchester Medical Center, I'm glad to say, was one of the cited centers. And as you know, Dr. Romeo Mateo of our group and Tusilo was the stent arm. Myself and Dr. Shah was the surgical arm. Of course, we were all selected based on our experience and surgical excellence in the last previous years. We had to go send all this. And Dr. Steve Marcus is a neurologist. And this is one of the very ugly cases that Dr. Mateo has done. You see the stenosis, so you see the recurrent stenosis and see the result. It's amazing. So this is a stented third artery. So it is clear that doesn't matter how much dogmatic you are, the technology has changed, and you could actually open the third artery with a stent and angioplasty, just like you would do surgery, or perhaps even better, right? So now, as we speak, what is hot off the press? This is New England Journal of Medicine, March 17, 2016, just last week, right? What did it show? So the long-term results of stenting was endarterectomy. This is a CREST trial, CREST investigators, group investigators, and the conclusion is a beautiful article. The conclusion is that over last 10 years, over 10 years of follow-up, there was no significant difference between patients who underwent stenting and those who underwent endarterectomy with respect to peri-procedure stroke, myocardial infarction, death and subsequent ipsilateral stroke. The rate of post-procedure ipsilateral stroke also did not differ between groups. It's an amazing conclusion. That means stenting and endarterectomy have the same result. There's a 10-year result, just came last week. Fortunately, we are happy. In a way, we are lucky because those who need stenting, we have the ability in our Dr. Mateo and Dr. Laskowski, both the endovascular experts, can do this, and Dr. Mateo was part of the trial already. So in fact, the endarterectomy will go down, but not completely. What is very important is that it's not well publicized is the persons who are doing this have to be technically superb. Like as I said, everything has to be done just physiologically right and technically perfect. That is the motto of the game. So that is it. So there are some other extracranial vascular conditions that I will, just subclavian steal syndrome, fibromuscular dysplasia, paravertebral dissections, etc. I think these are too many things to cover today, except what is called dysfunction. Subclavian artery, there's a tight stenosis of the left subclavian artery. You see the angiogram with the innominate, common carotid, right vertebral, left common carotid, left subclavian with almost a 90% stenosis. And what is missing here? What is missing is we don't see the left vertebral artery, right? So just a delayed flow, you see the left vertebral artery filling up and then filling the subclavian artery beautifully. This is the syndrome called subclavian steal syndrome. What is it? We did not know about the steal syndrome in vascular surgery. It's an amazing hemodynamics. The arm, the subclavian artery, because there's a tight stenosis, there's a decreased pressure here. The subclavian artery is stealing the blood from the brain, the vertebral artery. The blood is flowing in a reverse direction in the vertebral artery. This is the subclavian steal syndrome. So this causes a totally different spectrum of symptoms. What does it do? Because the vertebral vessels supply the back of the brain. The symptoms are actually posterior for the symptoms. Diplopia, the visual cortex, right? Occipital cortex. Diplopia, perioral numbness, ataxia, and most important, the drop attacks. The patient will be walking and suddenly will drop down and sometimes drop dead. So these are the symptoms. Fortunately, 80 to 90% of subclavian artery stenosis are asymptomatic, only about 10% symptomatic. But nowadays, this could easily be treated with stenting and angioplasty stenting, and we have done it quite a few. And then we have another aspect. What do? We are now seeing our elderly patients. What happens when patients come with carotid stenosis, coexisting carotid stenosis, undergoing cardiac surgery, and if they have very tight, if they have very tight carotid disease, and they have, of course, severe coronary artery disease. And believe it or not, Cleveland and all these people had done simultaneous carotid coronary, and the stroke rate was very high, 9 to 10% stroke rate. So they said that this is an operation that should not be done today. And it's funny that you were very young, and Dr. Reed, the former chairman of cardiac surgery, Dr. Singh, who is still the chairman of neurology, and us, we got together because in 1 week, of course, these were the days. This was 1980s. These were the days we used to do 6 to 8 coronary bypass a day, and we used to do about 800 a year. And in one month, I was, as I say, just a young vascular just coming in for practice. In 1 month, I saw a consultation that 3 people got stroke after cardiac surgery. That was beautiful cardiac surgery, and they had stroke. And when we examined, they had actually tight carotid stenosis, which we didn't know retrospectively. So Dr. Reed was, I should say, the person who called us and said, can you do carotid endarterectomy in these people at the same time? So then the question was, should we do them before? Should we do them after? Was the question. And so what do we do? Which procedure first? Should we do the bypass first, heart first, and then do the carotid, or do the carotid first? And so this was the dilemma. So what happened is that, by the way, studies were done. When those people, there was a group in Arizona actually, where did the carotid operation first in these people, but 20% of them got MI during the operation because they have to see with a turnover. Then they say, oh no, you should do the cardiac operation first. 20% of the coronary bypass patients got stroke because they had critical carotid stenosis. So so what happened? Our concept was to do these both together, and we actually presented a first set of patients. Look at this: 314 patients who had carotid endarterectomy, and compared to 124 combined carotid and heart. And we showed that the stroke rate is very similar, 1.6, 1.2. No difference, no statistical difference. And we presented this paper in one of the small international conference in France, and Dr. Norman Herzog from Cleveland Clinic, and actually Dr. Follier from Mayo Clinic said, you should come back in a year or two and say you apologize that you made a mistake. And fortunately, we didn't have to, because we proved that this can be done if you do it properly. So the vascular surgeons, the cardiac surgeons combined, we made a nice technique. We would do the carotid as they were harvesting the vein, and then they would do the carotid bypass, and then we would close. So we could do this, and we proved that this can be done. We were one of the first institutions in the country to do this, and of course now everybody else followed. Johns Hopkins, Southern Medical Group have an enormous series of this. And now I think this discussion is moot, because now I think with the carotid stenting, if anybody has a very tight carotid stenosis, perhaps they can go stenting and then go coronary bypass. So this just shows. And so our conclusion was that carotid endarterectomy can be performed simultaneously with open heart surgical procedures with acceptable morbidity and mortality. And patients with significant coexisting carotid artery and coronary disease need not be exposed to cerebral ischemic events or myocardial infarctions that often accompany staged operations. If you do stage, then you may get into trouble. So we do simultaneously all over. So that was our paper. And then, so in conclusion, I think since the days of Thomas Willis and Ramsay Hunt, we have certainly gained enormous knowledge about the large artery disease that affects the brain, causing stroke. But what we don't know, what we are very much in dark about, is the so-called small vessel disease that deranges our mind. So what is the answer to that? the cause of conditions that result in age-related deterioration in mental faculty. Initially, we used to call them organic brain syndrome, the whole spectrum. All right, senile dementia, Alzheimer's, multi-impart dementia, etc. Still eludes us and is thought to be small vessel disease. What exactly is this microvascular disease and what initiates this process? And how to remedy this for the bright minds of your generation? We really want an answer. So thank you.
That was spectacular. And it was really, so I'm going to start with the first question. This was a journey from searching for soul. I still didn't get it, where the soul is now. To really most modern management of carotid disease. Where do you think is going to be next? So we have now stents, and I'm not going to ask you who should put the stents. You avoided that very carefully. Should it be a neurologist, should be a vascular surgeon, should be a general surgeon, should be a trauma surgeon? Should be... So can you come over here, please? Okay.
Yeah, I always, this is a question that we think about all the time, and I always say, so I always give analogy to the spine surgeons. Who is doing the spine surgery? The neurosurgeons do it, the orthopedic surgeons do it, and so both do it very well. Who does it better? So I think now it's clear that one who is well trained has to do it. The vascular surgeons do it, some of the interventional neurosurgeons. Now there is a new Dr. Mike Sturkle, the new neurosurgery, interventional neurosurgeons are there, like Mike Sturkle. That's he does all intracranial things, and we still do it. So at least we are very lucky. Dr. Machayo, Dr. Laskowski, and all here we are very good endovascular experts. So we are already poised to do that, because I'm sure, FDA has not approved this yet, but now I'm sure with this New England Journal of Medicine article, very soon it's going to be approved and we have to be ready for it. So that's a good thing about an institution like ours, where we have all the expertise. We have Mike we have any problem, intracranial neuro intervention has become very good. Now we can go to the neck, etc. So I think the person, and there are some interventional radiologists who do it. In fact, I did not elaborate on this. When they did the CREST trial, before that, the whole thing started was because in France, the stenting had 20% of stroke, because people who did the stenting had no experience at all. One had done 1 or 2 years. But Gary Rubin was the PI. In fact, Dr. Matteo went to Lenoxville Hospital. Matteo went to Lenoxville Hospital. Did few things. We are supposed to do, I think, 20 Romeo or something, and he said, you are so good that you don't need to do anymore and come back. So I think we have all the expertise. We have an amazing group. Like this is one of the things that I always keep saying, that of the junior residents, we need to make it just not mediocre doctors. We want to make it superstars, and we have all the potential here.
So if you look in the crystal ball, what do you think is going to be 50 years from now in carotid disease?
I think I should go back to Dr. Marini's talk last week. I mean, we have to go to the molecular level. We still don't know. I mean, we now, like anything else, there is a saying in medicine that unless you treat the cause of the disease, you don't treat the disease. So whatever we are doing right now is only a mechanical solution to a very complex problem. Whether we do endarterectomy, whether we use stenting, we are only opening the block of what really causes atherosclerosis. And secondly, what is actually causing the microvascular disease, the so-called lacunar infarcts, the dementia syndromes and all, we don't know. I think we still need to go to the micro-molecular level, and I think that will be the next generation.
I'm sure there will be questions.
I just want to make the word of caution on the March 17 article. As you guys know, was designed as a non-inferiority trial, and the assumption was a 3%. For those who are not familiar, for a failed superiority versus non-inferiority, the non-inferiority design requires a larger patient population. The study was completed approximately after 1,457, whereas the patient population for the non-inferiority had to be greater than 1,600. If you look at the event rate in the 5-year follow-up the data, while there is no statistical significance, if you assume the same event rate for the full completion of the study, there may be an inferiority actually of the stenting. Number two, they put together the patient population with a widespread age range, indicating that the young are as benefited from the older, that could be a word of caution. Because if you do carotid, and you have a stroke rate consistently less than 1.5, and you have a 10-15 year follow-up, you may still be better off with a CA.
No, I agree with you. I think the fine points are very important. Obviously, we didn't go into details. One of the downside of the CREST trial is that there were no people who were more than 80 years old. In fact, they were right. They were all excluded. And as you know, now the most common patients that we do are all 80 and above. So in fact, the stent showed that the people with 80 and above have a higher incidence of stroke. We still don't know the reason. Is it just the brain has less reserve, or what is the story? So I think it's very, like anything else, the judgment is very important. I have this famous quotation, like I always like, don't be the tool of your tools, just because you have the tools doesn't mean that, so don't be the tool of your tools, use your judgment, and we still, I think, the human judgment is still, cannot be surpassed by all the technology we have. Romeo?
Dr. Marini was correct in that the data analysis, but in terms of the big picture, though, it doesn't matter if it showed non-inferiority or even equivalence. If you say stenting is equivalent or non-inferior to surgery, the stenting is dead, because stenting, on average, costs $10,000 to $15,000 to up to $20,000 more per patient, and that's part of the reason why, as of today, the only cases that stenting is covered for are those who are high risk for surgery and symptomatic, both. Which is an incredibly small percentage, probably less than 1% of people, probably less. That's the only time that outside of a registry, which means if you're asymptomatic and if you're not high risk, no insurance company would cover the hospital, physician, or anything. So that's why all these studies that show equivalence, you're just shooting yourself in the leg. That means the stenting procedure.
And that applies to the pipelines. As you know, for those who are not familiar with the pipelines, the average cost of a pipeline exceeds $40,000 with the number of so that's going to become an issue down the line.
So I agree with both Dr. Green and Dr. Mattel. However, I had the privilege of listening to Dr. John Matsumura on the day that the study was being published. Matsumura was one of the investigators from Wisconsin on this trial, and he was the one who was in contact with FDA for all these years as one of the centers. I think he said that.
I think it's going to come because public is going to demand it.
So what he said, that FDA told them that they need 2 trials to basically approve it, and this was the second trial to approve it in patients of, mentioned population. So if that's approved by FDA based on this trial, then, the public is going to mandate who's going to, basically.
And again, I think there's going to be follow-up trials because obviously, like anything else, I think if there's an overuse of stenting without proper judgment, we will get complicated again. So like anything else, we need to have both armamentarium and we need to select. Obviously, we all know that there's too much tortuosity of the carotid artery and bad anatomy, surgery is better than stenting, but I think we should be fine. The FDA probably will approve very soon.
Yeah, I think very soon the CMS will approve for stenting. And this could happen within a few months or within a year, I would say. And when that happens, the majority of patients will opt for stenting.
See, Romeo, one of the questions, the same argument was when initially we started the endovascular tumour aneurysm. They said this, where do you think this costs $15,000 for this graft? It's too costly, but now you're saying. So I think the cost will have to come down.
Cost will not play a
And
role.
also, in terms of going for, even though carotid surgery has been so successful, it's similar to coronary artery bypass, which became one of the most successful operations. But if you don't have to go through it and just come out the next day and be fine, you don't want to choose that.
We still have, doesn't matter how good a surgeon you are, we're going to have a finite number of, nerve complications, etc. So those things are not there, they will stenting.
One more question? Yes, ma'am.
My comment would be just because it can be done. And for everybody's mind, it is that, okay, I'm just going to go in, get a 2-hour procedure, walk out, and I'll be fine. But keep the studies so people would demand it. But I think it would be up to the physicians to guide them, just because it can be done and you think it is nothing, you are a young person, long term we don't know, or that this may not be the right thing. Public doesn't have the judgment. For them it is
That's
nothing.
good. Now we hope we still have the, some people have a model integrated indications.
I think one of the issues that in the US, we do not have yet the quality, how many dollars do we spend for quality adjusted life here that we gain free of complications? That is an issue that is going to become an issue of discussion down the line because it's not sustainable to proceed with the healthcare cost that the US has. So the question will be down the line, 10 years from now, how much are we willing to pay to get a year of good life free of complication or death? And right now, so when you're talking about putting $45,000 pipeline stents, right now, no one talks about it. But that will become an issue down the line.
Okay, well, let's thank Professor Babu for
Question is, when is it going to be approved to treat at least 2 here?